Hello, and welcome back to the Hero Report. My name is Ari Cohen. I am a professor of political science at the University of Nebraska. With me, as always, is Matt Langdon. Matt, how are you?
I'm doing well, Ari. Thank you very much. I'm pleased to welcome this week to the Hero Report Nolan Harrison, who works now in the NFL Players Association, had, I think, a 10-year career in the NFL as a defensive lineman and defensive end, right, Nolan?
That's right.
Yep. So welcome to the show. Maybe you can give us a little bit of an idea on what you do now, what your role is in the NFL Players Association. We'll get into some conversation about heroism.
Okay. I'm the senior director of the NFLPA Former Players. It's our Former Players division that serves everybody who's ever played football in the NFL. If you've signed a contract, you've been part of the NFLPA, and we have a membership program on the other side once you leave the game and transition into the real world, and that's the division that I head up. So it's an advocacy group. It's a transition life cycle transition group to help players take that next step and be a resource for them, whether it's information about benefits, information about what to do the next step if they want to advance in their careers. And this Be Here it's that extra locker room. Again, we have chapters all across the country to really help guys still be a part of football and be a part of the brotherhood.
Great, thanks. So I met Nolan at TEDx Bloomington last year after he did a fantastic talk on heroes. So Nolan, can you just let our audience know, I'm going to put the link to the YouTube video on at the end of the show here, but can you give us just a brief rundown of the points you made or the general thrust of the talk that you gave?
It's still kind of hard for me to talk about, but I tell you what, it was a great experience. It really was. We really focused on my experience at Indiana University. Growing up, I've always been kind of a hero worshiper. I've got lots of heroes, whether they're the comic book heroes, stories that I've read, things that I've seen in my life, and they really would shape my core being. We all have values. We all have kind of a code of ethics that we should be following in our lives. If you're in touch with that, that helps guide you. And mine has always been kind of hero-based. I always want to be that defender. I want to be that one that is there to help my friends, to defend my family, to be that protector. And that's come out in many different ways in my life, whether it was in high school, because in the beginning I was the one that was bullied, and then I grew, and then I became one who could have either gone one way. You could have gone the light side or the dark side. I stayed on the light side, and I became a defender of those who I'd end up outgrowing. They were still my friends, and helped them, and all up until the episode when I got to Indiana University, and I was able to stop a sexual assault in the dorms. So it's been a continuous journey, and I haven't stopped.
Great, and I really like the focus there at the start of your talk on using heroes, and who were some of the heroes that you had when you were growing up, and what drew you to them? What were the specific pieces that you added to your code?
Well, there are lots of different ones. I was a big comic book fan, especially some Marvel and some DC. But the X-Men were always one of my favorites as well, just because of the fact that if you follow the timeline, there's a lot of direct correlation between this world we live in and the world of mutants versus humans, minorities versus, and the whole struggle for equality, struggle to be oneself and to defend against all the things that are out there, the prejudice and things that are going on. That world hasn't stopped. We know we're living in it now, and you could draw a lot of great references from standing up for yourself, standing up for your beliefs, standing up for your kinmen to do what's right. And X-Men really had that for me. But if you look at the Dark Knight, one of my all-time favorites, one of the biggest reasons he came from tragedy. He could have gone the complete other way. Some people still say he does, but here's a guy that has no superpowers, is completely vulnerable, trained his mind, trained his body to do the right things over and over again, doesn't leave from his code. He's got a code, doesn't kill, doesn't use weapons, doesn't shoot. Things happen sometimes, but that's one of those characters that no matter what happens, no matter what it does to his soul, he doesn't vary from or veer from his core and who he really is. So I really like Batman a lot as well.
Great. And so, as an adult now, and are you still drawing heroes from comic books? What other sources, which is absolutely fine because I do, what other sources are you finding these kinds of people to help inspire you and help reinforce that character that you've built up for yourself?
Well, as I grew from those points, there's a lot of real-life heroes that are out there, from Gandhi to Malcolm X, at one point to Martin Luther King, looking at the different civil rights issues, look at those who stood, the Rosa Parks of the world. Those are true heroes. And then you go down and drill all the way down to your own personal life, my mother, my father, and the things that they were able to do for me, the heroic acts that they were able to accomplish to help me have the life that I have. And, when you look at the ones that are able to make it out of certain economic situations, you really see that there are truly heroic efforts that go on in our homes with our parents. So that's what I always tell the kids and tell a lot of these fans when they come up to me, you guys are your children's heroes. My parents were definitely my heroes. Without them, I would definitely not be where I am today.
Absolutely. So that obviously puts a large responsibility on you. Feel the large responsibility as a father now, right? And you're clearly modeling behavior. How else are you helping your girls? You've got 2 daughters, right?
I do.
How else are you helping guide them? Are you trying to give them more examples? Are you pushing them in directions where they might find some examples themselves? I mean, how are you managing that?
I'll give you a great example. And I'm a very protective father. I've always wanted to be a family man. It's always been in me. I've got a great wife and 2 great girls. And as they've grown, and they've been in that comic life with me, I've shown them the videos, and we watch the shows together. A lot of it's gone over to the manga side and to the anime side. So we'll watch Naruto together. We'll watch Bleach together. But I'll give you the greatest example just recently. When we got done with the NFL Players Association convention, I stayed and had a little bit of a vacation after I graduated my MBA in January. It was a much-needed vacation. I haven't had one in a long time. So we took some time and stayed down at the resort where we had our convention and saw 2 movies when we were down there. One, The Hunger Games, which is a strong heroine, as we know, with Katniss and the things that she was able to accomplish. Read all 3 books with my girls, and actually they read them first, and I read them afterwards, so it was actually pretty cool. The first time ever, both daughters read books before me, and they're 10 and 12, so I was pretty impressed with that. So I had to keep up. And then the second one was Wrath of the Titans. Both clear heroic movies. One is Greek mythology, and the other one is current mythology, and they were great examples of doing the right things, really fighting against adversity. There's also the parental aspect of it, the forgiveness aspect of it, lots of great emotional dynamics in there as well. And the kids, I'm able to be there and guide them through those things, help them through those life lessons so that they can make a difference. And it's manifested themselves in the way they interact with their friends. Both of my girls have actually stood up for others who need them. So I think I'm doing the right thing.
Fantastic. That's model parenting there. That's great stuff. I'm going to let Ari jump in here because I've been dominating talk so far.
Yeah, no, that's just fine. The thing that's sort of in the back of my mind is wondering how you connect these ideas that you have about heroism and right behavior with the idea of sport, right? So, what is it about being in the public eye? What is it about being on a team? How do these things connect up with your ideas on heroism and on making the right choices and doing the right things?
Well, a lot of it has to do with, particularly take the sport of football. In the fans' eyes, you're either the hero or the villain. You're never going to be both. If you're on the opposing team, you're all bad guys. And if you're on the home team, you're the good guys. So sports is kind of black and white when it comes to that. I'd say the advent of fantasy football and things of that have watered that down a lot. So guys are now cheering for, and fans are cheering for their favorite people to make points. So that's actually blurred that whole line of good versus bad. But in essence, when you're on the field playing, you're playing for your team, you're playing for your fans. So on every given play, it's my job to be the hero for my guys. There's 11 guys on that field. I'm one of them, and I need to make sure that I do all the right things to make sure that I come out on top. Everybody wants to be that hero. I'm a defensive lineman, so when the quarterback is going back for that pass, it's fourth down, we stop and we win the game. I want to get the sack. I want to get the fumble. I want to run all the way back for a touchdown, and I want all the crowd to cheer. That's heroism in sports. You know, whether it's Michael Jordan, Game 6, shooting that winning shot, or getting that sack fumble for a touchdown, or, you know, getting that acrobatic catch as a receiver. They're all heroic acts when that's your guy and that's your team.
There's a real difference there, too, right, between sort of making the big play on the field and then some of the things that you talked about prior to that, like, you know, making good choices and sort of being a moral person, being a role model, that sort of thing, right? There's a clear distinction between those things, and I think one of the interesting things about good guys and bad guys in sports, as you were talking about, is the idea that, yeah, you know, here's someone who makes a play and they play for the other team, so I wish they hadn't made the play. You know, whether it was a good or a bad play, I'm not going to touch on. I just wish that it had gone my way instead of their way. But then, you know, who they are as a person doesn't really enter into that equation, does it?
It does. I mean, you know, some fans, we'll put it in the most general terms as possible. If a player is one of a questionable moral ethic, moral compass, and that's very public and people know about it, fans are more than likely to turn on them, and if they're on the fence, they won't be on their side at all. Whereas if a guy has got a good core quality, you take a Tim Tebow, for example. You know, maybe not the best quarterback mechanically in the world, but he's got so many fans and such a strong following because of who people believe he is, how he conducts himself, all the things, all the intangibles that he seems to bring to the table, the things that he's done in the past. He doesn't have a blemish on him. The way he's handled the adversity being in the league for the last 2 years and all the scrutiny, it's hard not to like that guy. It's hard not to root for that guy. So you take him as an extreme example of people who would look at him as the good guy and everybody else is the bad guy trying to bring this guy down. And he's made a wonderful, I'd say, off-the-field career of that right now.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point. You know, we talked about this a few weeks ago on the podcast, the last time we talked about sports. I'm a Detroit Lions fan, and the example that always comes to mind is Barry Sanders, right?
Yes.
There are very few people, regardless of Lions fans or not Lions fans, who have anything negative to say about Barry Sanders, right?
That's right.
And I think even if Barry Sanders is shredding your defense, you say, well, you know, at least it's Barry Sanders. He's a good guy.
You know what? It was actually the same being a player. You know, when Barry, we'd want our best, especially if it's a defense. Barry Sanders wasn't going to run 100-yard on us. We didn't care who. But when you watched him on film and when you saw him in real life, he was one of those guys where you just said, wow. And you couldn't hate the guy because he was just that good. I don't think a person had any ill will towards the guy because he was that good, so humble, did all the right things off the field. He was just that kind of guy, and he'll go down in history as being one of the greatest running backs ever for his on the field as well as his off the field. And he's still being a great ambassador. And look out for his son at Stanford right now. This is going to be pretty fun to watch his son mature.
So, Nolan, where do you stand on the idea of the responsibility of fame in sports for the actions out off the field? Charles Barkley famously came down on the side of, we have no responsibility, no one's paying us to be a role model or a hero, we're just playing basketball. Do you think that there is an inherent responsibility there when the players are in the public eye like that? Absolutely.
Absolutely. We have a responsibility when we elevate ourselves through our play and through our actions to the status of pro. That takes us in a whole different category, and you can't hide from it. You can't take the good with the bad. You can't take the accolades and say, well, I'm going to let all that other stuff go. There's too many kids out there wanting to be us. There's too many high school kids that are going to be the college kids that are going to be your teammates one day, and then when you're former players and you look back and you see the kind of legacy you've left, that's how you're going to be judged. You know, one of the greatest things about the movie Troy, Achilles always said he wanted to be remembered. You're going to be remembered for your good deeds and your bad deeds. And if all of your time is spent being bad and all your bad deeds are the things that are the most important out there, all of the things that you've done that are great athletically on the field will be eclipsed by that. And all the kids that are led down the wrong path because they followed you, that's your responsibility. You know, my father would always teach me, and my grandfather taught me the same thing, don't shame your family. You know, that's one of those heroic traits. You have to be a hero for the ones in your house. If you don't respect them and start there, and then it goes outward. I respected my fans, my family, my friends, and that's the way it should be.
And so, what can we do as a society, or what can a league like the NFL do to help promote that at a younger age? How can we get the high school kids and then into college? How can we get the idea that they really do have a responsibility to the fans? Because college, I mean, more and more is the players are becoming well known, right? They are becoming the most famous people on campus, and people are watching what they do. How can we get that message that you've just shared there across?
Well, the NFL Players Association has a program called Pipeline of the Pros, where we go to schools and we talk to them about the expectations and the responsibility that comes with if you do get lucky enough to be that 0.1% that make it to the NFL. Here are the things that you're going to be confronted with. Here are the opportunities, but here are the pitfalls. Here's what you should be expecting, and here's what you should be doing to prepare yourself just in case you get lucky enough to get there. So we have a program in place, and we're trying to get out to more and more universities to make that happen. But it's actually really got to happen in high school. Life skills, honor skills, learning the right and wrong thing to do. Sometimes it's not taught in the house, and I think we need to bring those things back to our schools. If parents aren't going to be responsible, then we have to have the schools help make these kids better if they're not going to get it from the household. And unfortunately, as we know, a lot of times they're not getting it in the household. So it's our school's responsibility. They're going to teach them education, teach them morals, teach them the high ground, and let them grow from there. And that translates into better college, higher graduation rates, lower crime rates, and all the things that come with that. And then we have a better crop of pros by the time they get to us because they have a higher moral character by the time they make it to the NFL. Now, that's my pipe sky, rose-colored glasses, idealistic viewpoint, but if we could get some programs like that to start in high school moving forward, it would be a lot better as a society.
Yeah, and it's not a controversial thing to say that kids are absolutely mimicking the pros, right? I mean, I think anything that you're saying that the NFL Players Association is going into colleges, I think that's such a powerful message that it is coming from pros to share that message. Go on, Ari.
Yeah, I mean, it's also a real lifestyle change, isn't it? And I think this is something that people don't think enough about, perhaps, right? There's a dream about being a professional athlete because of all the great things that come along with it, right? You get to, first of all, I mean, you get to play the game that you love to play. You get paid for it, sometimes very, very well. You get the adoring fans. You get to go, all over the country, all over the world. There's a lot of upside, obviously, to being a professional athlete, but I think not enough time is spent thinking about all the changes that also accompany that professional athlete status, right? It's not like you can just go wherever you want anymore, right? I can go anywhere I want at any time, and nobody's going to bother me, right? Even in the college campus where I teach, I walk unnoticed. Nobody's paying a lot of attention to me. It's a totally different world, though, for student athletes, for example, who are in my class. Yeah, and they start to recognize that, but I think there's even a bigger jump when you go to the pros. Absolutely,
and you're at a school with an outstanding football program, welcomed into the Big Ten. Yeah, we'll welcome Nebraska, and they're all right. They might make the conference, decent.
Go Huskers!
But yes, I mean, I guarantee you, they have a higher profile than a normal student would be, and it does come with a lot more responsibility and a lot more scrutiny. Gone are the days where you could get away with things on college campuses. Gone are the days where you can get away with things in prose. Everything's 140 characters now. You mess up, the world knows about it instantly. Camera phone, everything instantly. So there's that higher visibility, but there's also inherent that greater responsibility to yourself, to your school, and to your teammates.
Nolan, one of the things that Ari, did you want to riff off that? I was going to change direction.
Just a quick follow-up, yeah. I mean, there are actually also a lot of people out there who are, I mean, in some sense, who are gunning for celebrities, right? It's not simply that you mess up. It's, you know, I mean, if you do, that's your fault, right? You're LeBron James, and you decided to have the decision broadcast on national television. That's on you. But there are all sorts of people out there, for whatever reason, who, you know, they see someone who's famous, they know this is someone with a high profile, who has a lot of money, whatever, and they'll actually, you know, sort of go out of their way to try to get close to that person, maybe even try to start something with that person, because they know they've got the phone, they've got the camera, and whatever. There are real pitfalls out there, and one of the things that, you know, that you have to teach people, I think, is how to walk away from situations where people are actively trying to get you to do the wrong thing.
That's right, and that's where that life skills training comes in, because you're right, we're in the TMZ society now. You know, everybody's got something that they think that they can make money off of. It's not, you can make money being infamous. You make money on turning on people. It's not, you know, unfortunately, that kind of society is completely opposite of what we're trying to accomplish and getting people to understand their true inner hero. It's actually turning us into a society of villains, and actually that lower level of it, because you wouldn't even classify them as that. They just have no honor. They just kind of slither around in the underbelly of things, trying to make things difficult, trying to make people change from their own. But those trials, you know, we talk about the hero trials. I talked about it in my TED Talk. We all have them, but guess what? As an athlete, you're much more tested on a daily basis, weekly basis, than the average person, and you have to be prepared for that. And those that aren't are the ones that fall.
Absolutely, and that kind of leads into what the tangent I was going to go off. But one of the great things you said in the TED Talk was addressing the bystander nature of most of us. That when we see something wrong, most of us will turn a blind eye, will ignore it, will pretend it didn't happen, and you know, and some people will join in. But the hero is someone who stands up and does the right thing. So, you know, a couple of weeks ago, my team, the Saints, had this big controversy of the bounties, right? And there's obviously pressure when you're at that level to perform, to win, right? There's incredible pressure, and so what can you share with us about how you can overcome that kind of pressure? Because kids feel it at school when someone's bullying someone else. They feel the pressure to not stand up. People feel it in the workplace when they see something that's clearly ethically wrong, but they might lose their job. All of that kind of thing. What can we do when we get those pressures? And you've obviously been in a place where there's immense pressure. There's millions and hundreds of millions of dollars based on your performance or the results of the game. How can you keep that compass straight and do the right thing when you've got that pressure?
Well, it really comes down to the individual player. I mean, you know, the game isn't played that way. The game is played tough. It's played hard. You hit people hard. You hit people hard so that they remember you. You hit people hard so that they're scared when they see you coming. But you don't seek to injure. You don't seek to hurt. You don't seek to destroy. You know, there's lots of metaphors that are used in our game. You know, crush, maim, impale. You know, but that's all bravado. Those are all metaphors that we use, you know, to get psyched up, because it's a violent game, and you have to be in that mindset. But you know, if you get to a point where you're being challenged morally to destroy somebody's life afterwards, that's completely wrong. I spent more time defending myself against that. And as you know, when I worked so hard for 3 or 4 years to get the chop blocking ban, because there were so many of our brothers getting chopped down by malicious acts, by guys diving on the back of their legs and ending careers or ending seasons, and guys were never going to be the same after that, myself being an example of it, those are things that you have to make that stand for. I did it back then. A lot of guys stood with me, and we got that rule changed. As long as guys continue to stand up in the face of some of these things, and they continue to make a stand to protect, to get rules changed that are the correct rules that could be called and done right, not the commissioner putting things out there for just smoke screens and for publicity, when they're the right rules for the right reasons that protect players for real, then we have guys standing up being heroes for each other and for the future players. Right.
And I think you addressed something that's really important there, is to get people to help, because if you're the only one standing up, the pressure just amplifies, right? And if you can get people, like-minded people who maybe don't have the courage to be the one to stand up, but if you stand up with multiple people, then you've got the strength in numbers then, right?
It's always the hardest to be the one to take that first step over the line, but guarantee you there's a whole bunch of other people who are like-minded that are watching to see who's going to take that first step. And when you do, they'll be behind you.
That's so true, and I think that's such an important message for people in all walks of life. All walks of life.
Yeah. I wonder, on the same topic, what you say to, not just the casual fan, but, the active fan, someone who really likes watching NFL football. But one of the reasons they like it is because, there's a real, I don't know if the word is violence, but there's a real kind of hard-hitting aspect to that game, and who feel, I mean, you hear this on shows like PTI all the time. Whenever there's a rule change or a commissioner calls somebody into the office, there's a lot of complaint about trying to water down, what is in essence a hard-hitting game where people who go into it professionally know that they're sacrificing their bodies in some sense. What do you say to people, when you try to make this case that there's a way to have the game, while still protecting people?
Oh, absolutely, and there are ways to do that. You can hit somebody as hard as you possibly can in the right way and still be perfectly fine. There's different ways that you can do it to hurt someone, and you can see that. If you know a guy is purposely doing it, it comes out on film. So then you have to have that conversation. Listen, I wouldn't want to be that guy on the other team, and I certainly don't want you as a teammate if this is how you are going to operate. Whether it's being bad in the locker room or being bad out on the field, it's the same thing. And when I talk to a fan, and you have to take this in context. I remember when Michael Irvin got slammed headfirst on the turf in Philly, and the fans cheered as he laid there motionless. So for us to have this everybody's against the Saints, everybody's against what's happened and the Bounty Gate and all those things. I remember hearing kill him, hearing maim him, hearing destroy him, cheers when people got knocked out, cheers when people are getting carted off the field. When we stop cheering for those things and we start cheering for good, clean play, I think then we'll start seeing some bigger differences. I think we'll start seeing some more cultural change. But when you're cheering when a guy gets knocked out and he's laying there motionless, that's a systemic problem. And no one seems to address that because it's the fans. Everyone seems to address it because it's the million-dollar players running around there doing that. And it all comes back down to that. But really, as the Gladiator was saying, Maximus in the middle of the Coliseum, are you not entertained? I mean, you can't say it any better than that. Standing in the middle of the stadium with a guy laid out underneath you and screaming, "Are you not entertained? Is this not what you want?" If I let him go and just touch him and he just falls down, will you still be entertained? Will you still put butts in the seats? Because that's what the owners want to know, and that's what the players want to know.
Yeah, I think that systemic issue that you point to is really so critical, right? I mean, when I'm thinking about, I'm a Detroit fan. I'm at the University of Nebraska. Have to comment on Ndamukong Suh, right?
Yeah.
When he was here, there was no better example of a really classy individual, right? He was incredibly well respected on campus. This is a guy who signs a pro contract and then, even before the money's in the bank, donates money back to the university, a substantial amount of money, right? And going to the Lions, incredible excitement from the fan base, and then you had the Thanksgiving stomping on a player, right, which seemed so completely out of character for this person. And so I think there is this idea that some people float that as you get into the game or the sport, that encourages on the one hand, this towing the line of the rule and doing as much as you can to provide entertainment to the fan, and seeing how rough you can be without getting into any trouble. As he got more and more into that culture, there's a real challenge for him personally. I mean, I don't know if that's what's going on there, but from the outside, one can, you can suggest that if the sport is a violent one, and if the fans are in some sense really cheering for as much hard-hitting action as they can get, just shy of getting into trouble or catastrophically injuring somebody, there are always chances that the line gets blurred and you cross over that line.
Well, looking at Ndamukong's situation, and as a defensive lineman, you have to look at the totality of all the things that were going on. He let frustration get the better of him, and those things happen. And in the sport of football, those things happen. Same thing happened to me. I actually did the same thing and was fined for it and penalized for it, but it was in retaliation for something that had been done to me continuously during the game. Those are never seen. It's like they always say, when the guy that hits back is always the one that gets penalized. But you never see all the things that are leading up to it, and the television broadcasters aren't going to go back and show, on this play, this happened to him, and this happened to him. They was drugged down from behind, he was chopped down, and all those things that lead up to the frustration and build up and we lash. Now, if you take that and you put that in a regular life category, you're in your office, things aren't going your way, the project that you're working on is screwed up, the copy's not right, times aren't going on, you're not going to meet your deadline, and then wham, you lash out. Whether you're just verbally lashing out or you slam your desk down or something, that happens to people. Now take that and you put that in the testosterone-filled powder keg called the NFL play. And you can imagine how sometimes those things can happen. Wrong, yes. Penalized for it, yes. But does that make him, unless he exhibits that character over and over again, does that make him that bad guy? No, it does not.
Yeah, right. And that's character is repeated action, right? It's we judge on the whole. And a lot of people, when your life is talking about heroes, people will question everyone. There's not a hero around that people won't have some kind of counter argument to say, well, they did this. But you can't dismiss people based on single actions. It has to be you have to be looking for patterns, right?
Absolutely. The greatest example of that is, everybody's greatest hero is Superman. Well, as we know, Superman went rogue. He went bad. And Cadmus had to create an alternative version to make sure that he didn't get loose again and destroy, half the planet. So, every great hero has that moment where he falls. But what makes a hero truly great is the ability to learn and rise from that. And it's not a consistent thing, but if your moral character is all the way up there, nobody in this world is perfect, not even our heroes, and that's what I love most about them. They're flawed, but it's their true character that continues to come out and continues to be in the forefront, which what makes them heroes.
Absolutely. Nolan, I think the NFL is really good at showing us that they're doing good stuff in the community, but I gather from talking to you that we don't know everything that they're doing. So can you give us an idea of some of the maybe behind the scenes that the league and the Players Association are doing to help promote character, help some of the players deal with the pressures that we've talked about? What are some of the programs that you guys have going on?
Well, there's lots of different charitable aspects that we do. Right now, for the former players, we do the Touchdown for Homes, where we go to our different chapter communities, go and help build homes with either Habitat for Humanity or homes for the veterans or home for the homeless veterans that come back. So there's different projects that we do there. The thousands of former players, some of them have their different foundations, and they're doing things either from pediatric cancer, AIDS, breast cancer research, so many different things. Breast cancer awareness. We have our One Team for the Community, which has many different facets underneath it. But one of the biggest ones is the breast cancer run that we do every single year, and we do it in 3 or 4 different cities. So there's different avenues that we keep available, not only for the former players and current players to the NFLPA, but individual players have their own charities. Drew Brees has done phenomenal work down in New Orleans, especially for after the Katrina, helping to rebuild that city, bring vibrancy back into the Manning family. Donated millions and millions of dollars, done the same thing down there. So you look at how many players just in that city and that tragedy alone have really given back to help rebuild that community. Now we have the Super Bowl coming back there, and a lot of people are going to get a chance to see just how much player and community activity has been going on.
Right, absolutely. So one thing that you mentioned earlier was very interesting to me and close to my heart, and that's teaching high school kids or teaching school kids this stuff, this idea of being heroes, and that's what I try to do every day. I've been talking to parents at a PTO conference today, and it was just great to see their eyes light up at that idea. What would your dream program look like that involves preparing those high school, specifically the athletes, preparing them for those changes, those steps, and the trials that they're going to face? What would that program look like for you?
Well, I think a lot of it has to be interactive. Players have to see, especially young players, have to see cause and consequence. If you show what a hero looks like, and you show that on a continuous basis in a level that they're going to understand, in an environment that they'll understand, they'll get it. Some of them won't. Many of them will. And if you continually reinforce that behind it, so whether it's interactive videos, interactive sessions, role playing, those are really important because they actually get the participants involved in the learning. Learning that way, in my opinion, is one of the best ways, especially changing character or modeling character the way you want it to be. It has to be acted out, and it has to be done repeatedly, and it also has to be backed up by the administration, by the parents, and by the peers. If it's not, it won't work.
Nice. That's a good answer.
Now, I'll give a good example. I was in Detroit last year speaking at the AFT, the Federation of Teachers in Detroit, trying to, there's a literacy program that we do up there. I've done it for the last 2 years. And I was talking to the kids about, it's funny, we're going through the program, and they're talking about their goals and what they want to be and go to high school and go to college because it's studying for their placement test. And we started talking about Naruto. And there was different episodes that they seemed to like, and so we kind of keyed on those, and I asked the question, well, what was his Nindo? What's his ninja way? And they all knew it. It was never give up, continue to be better, continue to protect the Leaf Village, protect my family, protect the village, protect my friends, do the right things, never stray from it. They got all of that, and they got it from a cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
They got it from a cartoon, but they had all of it. And I said, now, here in Detroit, you guys are being hit with a lot of, because these are inner city kids, you're getting hit with a lot of different adversities out there. There's lots of different challenges that happen to you the same way as it happens to this character. Do you react the same way? If somebody from the outside of your village comes and tries to hurt one of your family, one of your village mates, what do? Do you defend? Do you bring back? You call others who are stronger than you to help in the fight. And they all got that. But I wonder, is anybody else teaching that when I leave? Right. Hopefully some of them will remember that, and when the situation comes up, they'll make that good decision. But they all got it. Their faces lit up, and they understood. Teaching like that, some of the greatest teachers, the ones who are just awarded, have innovative teaching methods like that. And I think those are going to be the things that are going to help us change the moral character of some of our kids going through.
Yeah, and those kids are having that same experience that you described when you were a kid, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
How much do you think it matters, too, Nolan, to have athletes, whether current professional athletes, former professional athletes, or even just for high school students, let's say college athletes? How much do you think that matters to have them not only modeling this behavior, when they're going and doing charity work or whatever, but actually coming and speaking and being invested in the community and so on? I mean, do we see a lot of that, and can you tell that there's an impact?
I think, the consistent programs, you can see a big impact. And it should happen more, and no, we do it a lot, and it should happen across different sports, across different genres, different universities. Should definitely, if they're in a town where there's high schools, they should be going out there, and because that teaches the players accountability. If you're going to a high school and you're telling these kids things and then you do something completely opposite, they're going to know about it. You've betrayed that trust. You've betrayed who you say you are. So I think there should be more of those things going on. But when you continue to look at it, if that's not happening, I put it this way. Look at Disney. Most of those characters that are on those shows that these kids, who my girls 12 and 10 are looking up to, are the generation up. My daughter is just in the middle school, but she's watching the kids who are just above her age. They don't watch their peers. They don't want to see a show about a grade school. My 10-year-old doesn't want to see a show about her peers. She wants to see the show that one generation up. So they're thirsting for that. Disney makes billions of dollars for that next level up kid, and their fans are the younger ones. Their fans aren't the ones that are at their same level. So if that method works, we should be doing the same thing in sports. We should be able to take that next level down and be there for those kids. And that's why the pipeline for the pros with the NFL Players Association is definitely what we're doing to make sure that happens. We're in front of these kids and we're teaching them the right thing.
Well, it's fascinating, too. I hadn't even thought about the other point that you just said, which is that there's a level of accountability that comes back to the player as well, right? I think that's really interesting. Having gone and talked to 200 kids about doing the right thing, you'll be thinking about that, if the opportunity arises to do the right or the wrong thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess when you think about it, and maybe it's just me, but if I'm going to go preach something to somebody and I'm found to do something completely opposite, that hurts me. That hurts me. And am I always going to be perfect? If I'm going to say something, am I going to slide? But if that's my consistent thing, I couldn't show myself. There are some people who are perfectly fine with doing that. Inside, I'm not. I can't say to all of my guys, we need to lose weight. We need to really take care of ourselves. We need to exercise so that we could be alive for our families and everything and still be 305 pounds, which is my playing weight. I can't stand in front of them and do that. I can't say that. So there's accountability that comes with the things that you say and the actions that you take.
Great point. Great point. So we're coming towards the end here, Nolan, and there's a question we ask everyone that comes onto the show. Can you tell us who your hero is currently and why?
My dad. And I got to tie them up, both my mom and my dad. They're still my heroes. It's my dad just retired last year, and he's living the life, sitting back and relaxing after he got his 2 demon seeds out of the house. So, both of us are doing pretty good. So, and now he's that sage. I go to him for that advice, and same thing with my mom. I've got 2 girls now, so I'm like, Mom and Dad, did I do this? Did I do that? And they're giving me advice and things like that. That, of course, when I was younger, they don't know anything. But it's amazing how smart your family and your parents really are when they get older. Because when you were younger, they weren't that smart. You thought you know everything, but yeah, they're pretty heroic to me now, especially with the stuff that I've seen my kids doing, that my parents were able to keep me out of trouble and keep me on the straight and narrow.
Well, thank you very much, Nolan. Thanks for coming on the show. It was a pleasure. I found myself nodding the whole time you were talking. So I really appreciate the time.
Thank you guys very much. I appreciate you having me on.
Thanks again. Matt,
all right.
We'll see you next week. That went very well, I think.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Nolan. That was great.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All right. Enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy
you too, guys. Have a great weekend.
Thanks. You too.
All right.
Thanks. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, Matt?
That was good.
Yeah, we've done a lot of podcasting lately.
Yes. Well, nothing next week, right?
Yeah, we've got a bunch of stuff in the can, right? We have. Were you able to piece together the stuff from?
I haven't done it yet, but I'll do it this weekend.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
So that one can go. We can do this one Monday, or we can do that one Monday. It's really up to you.
I'll do the last one on Monday because her book is due fairly soon. So I want to
Okay.
make that happen. And then we'll just
Great.
Nolan can be the one after, and then we can get back on schedule starting on the 4th.
Okay. Yep. And we still have the Holocaust rescuers held back.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah. Excellent. All right.
All right, man. I'll talk to you soon.
I will. Right. See ya.
Thanks. Bye.